So after another busy weekend of Championship action, we're here to talk about it all. Let's jump into it. Guys, welcome back to another video on the channel and to another episode of the Championship Roundup. Now, this video will be split into two parts. First half of the video, we're going to be going over all of this weekend's action, and the second half of the video, I'm going to be giving you guys my midweek score predictions. Now, speaking of score predictions, thankfully this time around, it was a little bit more predictable in terms of the outcome of some of the matches that we've just had this weekend. A few big scorelines in there for the Prediction League this week. Before we jump into anything though, let's take a look at the updated standings in the Prediction League, and I'm coming for that number one spot. It's still Kyle Barrett and J-Matt who lead the way with 96 points each, but I myself had a pretty big game week, picking up 17 points this time around, and I'm just 2 points off that top place. So yeah, really tight in around the top of the Prediction League at the moment, guys. Into League One, it's Alfie Rycroft who's gone top of this league for the time being with 74 points. Not a lot separating the top and bottom of League One at the moment, only 4 points in it. And it's as tight as ever in League Two as well, with Stephen Slater currently leading the way with 70 points. So yeah, some really good scorelines from you guys this week. Shout out to everyone who had a good one. Hopefully this midweek is just as good for score predictions, but without any further ado, let's hop into talking about some of these games. And so let's start out with Friday night's first kickoff, and it was Coventry 3, Peterborough 0. It was the team with the 100% home record going up against the side with the 0% away record, and in the end this one probably unfolded like many of us had predicted. For whatever reason, Peterborough just seemed to be a completely different side at home compared to away from home so far this season. Up until this point, they haven't managed to get off the mark away from home, but take nothing away from Coventry here, because once again they really put on a show for this one, didn't they? Now, for the first half, Peterborough had managed to keep Coventry at bay, albeit the home side was looking the more threatening out of the two sides. They hadn't quite got into their groove, but that 10-minute spell, especially in the second half, Peterborough just absolutely caved in on themselves, didn't they? And after that first goal went in, I don't know whether it was sort of a mentality thing that had switched a little bit, but the defending for the two Gyökeres goals I thought were quite poor, to be honest with you, but that's not taking anything away from how well he works those, and particularly the second goal. I thought that his movement was really good for that one, to sort of pull off, peel off, create that angle, and obviously some nice footwork and the help for deflection makes it 3-0 to Coventry. Now, the question that I'd ask to Coventry fans is, how far do you guys think you could go this season? Obviously we're only 9 games in and no one should be getting sort of like too carried away at this stage, but even so, immensely impressive so far from Coventry, and by far and away they've been the overachievers of the league so far. And to be honest with you, this is the sort of thing that I really like to see, because you know, we're all sort of anticipating all the teams coming down from the Premier League to be very strong this year. It's nice to see someone just completely come out of nowhere and look to ruffle that up a little bit at the top. So yeah, long may it continue for Coventry. They look great so far, haven't they? Next up, we then head to the Hawthorns, and what again, this turned out to be plenty of late drama involved, as West Brom got back to winning ways by seeing off QPR by 2-1. Now, QPR, understandably so, probably quite frustrated to not come away with anything from this game given how long they were actually leading for. Goal comes almost instantly from this one. We spoke about it on the last episode of the Championship Roundup, how there is maybe a bit of a template of how to set up against West Brom, and particularly how you create chances against them. You know, Ishmael likes to go with that really high back line, you know, that back three always pressed up right the way to the halfway line. So if you can get those balls sort of around them or over them, and you get a bit of pace going up against them, that's how you ultimately create chances, and that's where the goal came from for QPR. After that, obviously West Brom were then sort of wanting to commit more bodies forward and stuff like that, but it was a frustrating watch for quite a bit of this one, but as QPR managed to keep them at bay. But credit to Ishmael, he used his subs really well in this one. Obviously Jordan Hugill and Callum Robinson both coming on off the bench. Now, the first Colin Grant goal is obviously a bit of a howler there by Senny Dieng, and should that goal not go in, maybe QPR even not end up holding out for all 3 points. You know, it's small margins like that which really make all the difference. But for all the sort of talk we've had about West Brom this season, sort of like how they create chances in terms of like the long throw-ins and the long balls and things like that, the winner in the end was just great football, wasn't it? Lovely flick back heel by Hugill into Robinson, the pass once again into Colin Grant, and a great finish to end it all off. So yeah, big win there for West Brom, given how many games they've been drawing lately. that brings them right up into the equation of everything again in terms of automatic promotion. Frustrating for QPR, who they themselves have found themselves in a little bit of a rut recently. Next up then, and to the early kickoff on Saturday, we had Reading 1, Middlesbrough 0. Now, when I saw the team sheets come out for this game, I thought that surely Middlesbrough would be fancying their chances going into this one. Reading obviously having no fit centre halves at the moment. They had to have Andy Yadom and Josh Laurent fill in that position, both of whom I thought did fantastically well in this game. They also started without a recognised striker as well, with Junior Hoylett playing the furthest up the pitch. But credit to Reading and credit to Veljko Paunovic for how he's managed to turn this run of form around for them recently, because I really thought that after that 4-0 loss to Huddersfield, I thought Paunovic really could be a dead man walking, you know. It was a bit of a perfect storm for him to end up losing his job, you know, with the off-the-field issues at Reading at the moment, with the accumulation of injuries as well. But everyone just seems to have dug in, and fair play to them, because I, for one, really didn't see this turnaround of form coming. Each of the three players who they have to play off the striker are all capable of being match winners, and Halilovic was just that in this game, scoring his first goal for Reading. But in terms of Middlesbrough, I mean, Neil Warnock's under real pressure now. They've been so far off what I expected them to be this season that, I mean, with the summer transfer window they had and the amount of money that they spent, that's where expectations come from day one. Matt Crooks got sent off late on, which I did think was pretty harsh, to be honest with you, but it just capped off what was an awful afternoon for Middlesbrough. After that, we head to St Andrews, where we had a goalless draw being played out between Birmingham and Preston. Now, we said coming into the prediction for this one that Birmingham would look to be a little bit more resilient, coming off the back of conceding 7 in their last 2 championship matches. I think they probably were that in this one, to be honest with you. Obviously, Lee Bowyer would have been hoping for a bit of a reaction. They had a good chance early doors when Troy Deeney hit the crossbar, but after that, I thought that Preston probably edged the first half with the other chances that we had. But same story of our season so far, really. When we've not quite been able to put away those chances, we've ultimately ended up not killing off this game. And I do feel like it is maybe another one of those where we'll look back on it and think, could we have potentially got 3 points from that one? Maybe. Daniel Iverson was also called into action on a few occasions, to be fair, when Birmingham came forward and had their chances. From Preston's perspective, the unbeaten run goes on another week, but there's a lot of matches we're drawing at the moment. Last 4 championship matches now have all ended as draws for Preston. I mean, it's incredibly congested at the moment in the middle of the championship. Only 3 points separates 7th from 17th at the moment, which tells you just how tightly squashed in everyone is in that area of the table at this point in time. But yeah, I do feel like maybe a few tweaks are needed in the final third. I'd like to see maybe a bit of a freshen up for the Stoke game in midweek, just because, yeah, eventually we do need to start turning some of these draws into wins. Next then, we head to Ewood Park, and one side who's certainly not struggling for goals at the moment is Blackburn Rovers. 5-1 in the end. I mean, Cardiff were absolutely dismal at the back, and we'll get to talking about that in just a second, but we need to give Blackburn some credit here, to be fair, because they have been, along with Coventry, probably one of the overachievers of the season so far. I had them penned down to be in a relegation battle this season, and so far they couldn't be any further from that. Gallagher with 1 goal, Brereton with a hat-trick, and Dolan with the other. Dolan not quite good, actually, obviously setting up that first one for Brereton. He deserved his goal this afternoon. But in terms of the Cardiff back line, my God, they were looking laboured and lethargic, weren't they? The first goal comes from a simple ball over the top, no pressure on the ball, and then slow to get back into positions. For the first 2 Brereton goals, I thought Cardiff were caught sleeping at the back, to be honest with you. Dolan does well for the first one. The second Brereton goal is just a comedy of errors from that Cardiff back line. And it will be interesting to see how they react to this, because, like I say, they do have a difficult run of fixtures which are coming up now, and a South Wales derby which isn't too far away as well, and seemingly with maybe Swansea starting to turn a bit of a corner in their season, that game will be a really fascinating watch. But yeah, awful day at the office here for Cardiff, and maybe even Mick, another manager who's coming under a bit of pressure at the moment. But fair play to Blackburn, in the top 6 at the moment and looking quite good, especially at home. Next we then head to Bloomfield Road, where we had Blackpool claiming back-to-back wins for the first time this season as they saw off Barnsley by 1-0. Did manage to correctly predict this one. Now, I mean, in terms of Barnsley, the best way to describe them at the moment would probably be lacklustre. It's now 7 games without a win for them. I think we all expected there to be a bit of a fall off from last season, given the players that they lost, obviously Ishmael leaving as well, and the fact that it would be a bit of a transition in terms of the new style of football which would be coming in. But it's not been a great look for them so far this season. 20th in the league at the moment. There does seem to be a lack of much cutting edge in the final third at the moment. That was really shown in this one here today. When Blackpool took the lead, a really nice goal by the way. Lovely back heel by Keshi Anderson, who had 5 key passes for this game. Looked like a bit of a stand-up performer for Blackpool. And a great finish by Shane Lavery as well. Coming into this season, we were all sort of saying how like Jerry Yates is going to be Blackpool's main man going forward, given the amount of goals he scored last season for them in League One. But now it's Lavery all over at the moment, who's the main man for them going forward. And a great finish as well. Manages to make that run in off Heelick, and then it's a good finish at a tight angle in at the bottom corner. If either team was going to go on and get that second goal, it looked like it was going to be Blackpool with the chances they had after going 1-0 up. And yeah, like we mentioned the other week, Blackpool have got a decent opportunity here to go on a little bit of a run. They go up against Hull in midweek, and they'll probably be fancying their chances in that one. Next then to Bournemouth, who claimed another 3 points in this one as they saw off Luton by 2-1. Also managed to get a correct score prediction with this game as well, but it was probably Luton who had the better chances to go on and take the lead in this game, but it was just not Adebayo's day up front at all, was it? He missed a bit of a sitter early on. Bournemouth then nearly played themselves into trouble with them passing at the back. Adebayo nearly got onto the end of one of those chances, but once again didn't quite fall for him. In the end, Bournemouth take the lead with a magnificent bit of quality here from Ryan Christie, who just lobs the ball over the Luton defence into the path of Billing, who finishes it well. He then gets the second assist for the Solanke goal as well. In at half-time, 2-0 Bournemouth are then looking quite comfortable at that stage, but second half they did make quite tough work of it, to be honest with you. Going forward especially, Bournemouth looked a little bit flatter in that second half. Luton looked to try and take advantage of that. They got that goal back from Burke. Adebayo, funnily enough, did have another chance to get on the score sheet with a hanging header, but that one went wide. So yeah, Luton in the second half definitely gave it their best shot to get into this one, and I'm sure there were quite a few twitchy Bournemouth fans, and particularly after how that game against Blackpool went when they had that 2-0 lead going into half-time. But no, good win there for Bournemouth, who now find themselves at top of the Championship. Next then we head to Ashton Gate, where we had Bristol City drawing 1-1 with Fulham. Now I know the saying usually is if you can win your home matches and draw your away matches, you'll probably get on quite well over the course of the season. Well, Bristol City are completely flipping that on its head at the moment. They're winning their away matches, and they're slowly starting to turn things around, maybe at Ashton Gate, by getting a few draws there at the moment. But a good point for them in this one, but frustrating for Fulham at the moment because things just aren't quite falling for them. The general level of performance has been decent lately, but ultimately they've picked up just 1 point from their last 2 matches now, and they've created a hell of a lot of chances in between. They ended up hitting the crossbar 3 times in this match, but strangely have been not really very clinical lately. Mitrovic gets the opener in the first half, nice ball which is chipped through by Cabano. Wilson then puts it back across and Mitrovic finishes it off. Bristol City get back into the game though through Casey Palmer. Was he offside? I mean, he does look it from that replay, doesn't he? Gazaniga makes a terrific initial save, but can't quite recover in time to stop the rebound. Palmer in at the near post. But yeah, great point there for Bristol City. It does feel like they're getting closer to that first win at Ashton Gate, but I'm sure Bristol City fans will take a point in that game all day long. Next up then, and to the City ground, where we had Nottingham Forest playing at a 1-1 draw with Millwall. It always seems to be a bit of a safe bet at the moment to be back in a 1-1 draw when it comes to Millwall. Similar story to Preston at the moment. They just need to find a way of turning some of these draws into wins. It's a 5-game unbeaten streak now for Millwall, but 4 of those have all been draws. The away side definitely had the better of the first half in this one. Matt Smith scoring from those sort of aerial duels, which is always going to sort of dominate him and Ojo, linking up quite well for that goal. Had Millwall got a second goal while they were on top in the first half, then the second half could have potentially panned out a little bit differently. It was a freak goal in the end, which gets Forest back into it, but what a goal it ends up being from Lowe, who just whips in a ball from that wing-back position, ends up wrong-footing Bilkowski, and it's an absolute worldie which goes into the top corner. Smith has a chance to win it, but he hits the crossbar in the second half. Millwall fans, I'd be interested to know what the general vibe around your club is at the moment, because, like I say, it's an alright unbeaten run at the moment, but only 1 win so far this season, and that win did come against Blackpool, who played the majority of that match down to 10 men. So, yeah, something just still not quite clicking for Millwall, especially in the final third. But yeah, start of the journey there for Steve Cooper, not a bad point to start things off with. Next then to Bramall Lane, Sheffield United continue to climb the championship as they pick up all 3 points with a 1-0 win over Derby. For Derby, things didn't quite go their way in this one. You certainly can't sort of criticise the endeavour of the players in this one, as it was certainly out there on the pitch, but some of the key decisions and a couple of the chances that they had in the final third just didn't quite fall their way. For Sheffield United, I mean, they had an absolute plethora of chances in this one. It seemed like at times they were getting in their own way inside the box, but yeah, the real big moment of this game comes in the 57th minute. Billy Sharp's going through on goal, Roos takes him out. He's then shown a red card, which I think the majority of people that I've seen at least agree that it's pretty harsh, to be honest with you. I think a yellow card probably would have sufficed there. From then on, obviously, Derby have to shuffle things around. Allsop comes in goal off the bench, and then Sheffield United can just, you know, throw wave after wave forward with Derby down to 10 men. And it does take a handball in the 89th minute to give them a penalty. Bit silly in the end from Curtis Davis, you know, a player as experienced as he is. Billy Sharp tucks that away and certainly enjoyed that goal, given his celebrations and post-match interview after. But even then, Derby had the chance to level it up, but Tom Lawrence had his chance come off against the post. So yeah, by no means were Sheffield United at their sparkling best in this one, but Derby's a tough game at the moment, so a good 3 points for them to come through there, albeit the circumstances won't quite land up in Derby's favour. Next then we head to Stoke up against Hull. Stoke getting back to winning ways in this one as they saw off Hull by 2-0. We'll talk about the away side first of all, because I am starting to get quite worried for Hull at the moment. They're now sat 23rd in the championship, only propped up by Derby, who have obviously now had that point deduction kick in, and I think that we've had a decent enough sample size of this season so far to sort of see what each of the three newly promoted clubs are going to be about this season in the championship. While Peterborough have had their struggles on the road so far this season, they've looked pretty competitive in their home matches. Blackpool really seem to have clicked up in gear and get into their groove this season. When it comes to Hull though, I'm not really seeing any sort of progress or improvements week to week. It's pretty much more of the same. I know they've still got players out and players to come back in and things like that, but this next game that they've got up against Blackpool in midweek seems absolutely crucial for their season now, because should they go on to lose that one, things could really start to spiral out of control. And I know it's still early on into the season. Yeah, that Blackpool game does feel like a bit of a make or break one for Hull, even this early on. In terms of Stoke, it was two real moments of quality which ended up winning this game. The Varancic goal was absolutely fantastic. Left foot, right foot, sits a couple of defenders down, then fires it into the roof of the net. And then the Nick Powell free kick was absolutely outrageous, wasn't it? Both are fair shouts, I think, for goals of the week. They were absolutely fantastic and just what Stoke needed after that Derby game last time. And as our last game to go over, we had Swansea beating Huddersfield by 1-0. Joe Perreault coming up with the goal for Swansea in the end, which was enough to get over the line in this one. I thought that the front three looked decent in this one for Swansea. They seem to be linking up with each other quite well. It was Jamie Patterson with the goal for Perreault, who he himself could have had a couple of goals in this one, to be honest with you. Huddersfield, a little bit lacklustre, really. Didn't have a shot on target for this one, which I'll have been disappointed about. From Swansea's perspective, I think that properly getting off the mark at home was quite important in this one, to sort of get that monkey off the back of getting that first home win of the season. And like we sort of mentioned earlier on in the video, it's crazy how congested this part of the table is at the moment. Huddersfield is 7th and Swansea is 17th, so 10 places separating these two at the moment, and yet there's only 3 points in it at the moment. You would still put it down as an overall good start to the season for Huddersfield, given their sort of expectations at the start of the year with them sitting in 7th. But yeah, the last couple of results have just been a little bit frustrating, haven't they? For this one, just never really seemed to click up into gear. Well guys, there we have it. Those were all the matches that took place in the Championship this weekend. As always, I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Did you go to any of these matches and what did you make of them? In terms of my results of the weekend, few contenders for this one, but I think I'm going to have to go for Blackburn 5, Cardiff 1, winning in emphatic style. Brereton getting the hat-trick. Yeah, good vibes at the moment at Blackburn. For my goal of the weekend, there were also quite a few contenders for this one. I'd be interested to know who you go for a goal of the weekend, but I think that Nick Powell free kick was just absolutely phenomenal, wasn't it? From how far out he was as well. I might have to go for that, but there are quite a few close contenders in there. But that's what I made of all this weekend's action. Now without any further ado, let's hop into my midweek score predictions. So as always, make sure to get your guys' score predictions in the comments down below and get yourself entered onto the prediction league. Starting out, we've got Cardiff going up against West Brom. Now I feel like that late winner for West Brom on Friday will be massive for them in terms of changing around the momentum from that little drawing streak that they got on. And Cardiff, after shipping 5 goals against Blackburn, aren't exactly coming into this one on sparkling form. Feel like it's a decent time for West Brom to be playing them, so I'm going to go 2-0 West Brom in this game. Huddersfield up against Blackburn. Also an interesting one. Obviously Blackburn fresh off the back of scoring 5 goals. Away from home they've been a little bit more touch and go in terms of the chances that they've been creating, but Huddersfield have now lost their last 2 matches. Maybe a decent time to be playing them at the moment. I'm going to go for another Blackburn win in this one, I think. I'm going to go 2-1 Blackburn. Hull up against Blackpool, like we previously mentioned. It's an absolutely massive game, particularly in Hull's season, for the current run of form that they find themselves on. But I think I've got to be edging towards Blackpool for this one, you know. I'm going to go for a 1-0 away win in that game. Middlesbrough up against Sheffield United. The pressure is now being piled upon manager Neil Warnock. And, I mean, I know it took a late penalty for Sheffield United to get past Derby in the end, but they did create a lot of chances. And I think they probably get through this game as well. I'm going to go 2-0 Sheff United. A lot of away wins that I've gone for so far. Next up to Deep Dell, we've got Preston going up against Stoke. I am edging towards another draw in this one, to be honest with you. It's what Preston are doing at the moment. This would make it 5 consecutive draws, and on the face surface of things, a point against Stoke isn't a bad result, but just because of the volume of draws we're getting at the moment, yeah, we need to find a way to start winning games soon. But Stoke have got real quality going forward, so I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in that game. QPR up against Birmingham. Also fancying a draw for this one, you know. QPR got a little bit unstuck in their last few matches. Birmingham, slight improvement last time around against Preston with that goalless draw. And in general on the road so far this season, they have been decent value for money apart from that Peterborough game. So I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw in that game. Into the Wednesday night fixtures, we got Barnsley going up against Nottingham Forest. And do you know what? I'm going to back Steve Cooper to get his first win there as Forest manager. Something just doesn't quite seem right at Barnsley at the moment. So I think that's a decent opportunity there for Forest and Steve Cooper to get off the mark together. I'm going to go 1-0 Forest. Derby going up against Reading. Reading, given the circumstances of all the off-the-field issues and the amount of plays that they're missing at the moment, credit to them because they've actually surprised me by how well they've done. And the same could probably be said for Derby, actually. I don't know why, but I've got just a feeling in the back of my mind that it might end up just being one of those games for Reading where they end up hitting the crossbar and post 5 times, and Derby just managed to get over the line with another result at home where they have been quite good at so far this season. So I'm going to go 2-1 Derby in that game, but really I could be swayed either way on that result. Fulham going up against Swansea. I do think that Fulham have got a little bit unlucky with the volume of chances that they created in their last few matches not to have won one of those. Obviously Swansea slowly starting to turn around their form, good win at the weekend, but I think I am going to back Fulham to get back to winning ways in this one. Swansea have it in them to frustrate Fulham, don't get me wrong, but I'm going to go 2-0 Fulham in that one. Luton going up against Coventry. Luton have been really quite hit and miss recently, so it's tough to make a prediction on them. Coventry, while they've not been as consistent away from home as they have been at home so far this season, I still think they may get through this one, you know. I'm going to go 3-1 Coventry in this game. I'm going to back the goal scoring streak to continue for Coventry. Millwall going up against Bristol City. Now so far this season, in practically every Millwall prediction I've made, I've pretty much predicted them to draw every match, but I may go against the grain in this one and back Bristol City for an away win. They just seem to have the formula at the moment that works for them away from home. So I'm going to go 2-1 Bristol City in that game. I may end up regretting that one when it turns out to be another 1-1 draw, but I'll go 2-1 Bristol City. And then finally we got Peterborough going up against Bournemouth. I am going to back a Bournemouth away win in that one. Peterborough much more competitive in their home matches, but Bournemouth do have that real quality going forward, so I'll go 2-1 Bournemouth. But as you can see to the side of me, those are my score predictions for how I see the midweek action unfolding in the Championship. As always, make sure to get your guys' score predictions in the comments down below and get yourself entered onto the prediction league. But apart from that, guys, that will now wrap it up for today's video. As always, if you did go in to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. It is always massively appreciated, and do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content. Apart from that, thank you very much for tuning in to today's video, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.